I'm Eric Peterson, and I'm the chair of Scientific Sessions, and I'm joined here by Dr. Don Lloyd-Jones.
Hello, welcome.
And we're here to talk about the first day of AHA Scientific Sessions in the year 2018. This year is very exciting. It's our first of our three-day format, Don. Exciting to be able to pack in this much science in just 3 days.
It's a nice change, and I think clinicians in particular will appreciate only having to be here for those 3 days.
Yeah. During that period of time, we'll be covering over 700 different potential public offerings and scientific session displays. We'll certainly have our traditional late-breaking clinical trials. We'll have late-breaking science, lots of things.
Including a couple of hot guidelines that I think people are really interested in.
So to try to help you out with this, we have a mobile guide, which you can use to search through the meeting and find all the presentations that you want to find. In addition, you can use your mobile app to be more interactive with speakers, asking questions, answering polls, getting immediate feedback on what was important and meant something to you.
Exactly. So Eric, tell us what's going to happen today on Saturday.
Well, you know, it's my first pick is actually one of the first sessions of the overall meeting. It's the late breaking event, Cutting Edges of Science, talking about what's the newest, latest, and greatest in cardiovascular disease. This session will begin at 8:30. It'll have 6 sessions that'll be delivered by very famous physicians and scientists around the world. We'll look at sort of the TED-like lectures of everything that's interesting for their field. Fields like how the microbiome might affect the heart. Can we develop a vaccine to treat cardiovascular disease? I'm really looking forward to it.
This is going to be a great session. I think this is truly the cutting edge in cardiovascular science, including things like nanotech monitoring in the ICU and the heart-brain connectome. So I think if you're really interested in the cutting edge, this is where you need to be.
How about you, Don?
So top pick number 2 for me was, of course, the cholesterol guidelines, long awaited. This is the 2018 cholesterol management guidelines from AHA and ACC, and a whole host of other societies endorsing as well. This is an update of the 2013 guidelines that will cover important topics, including formal recommendations for PCSK9 inhibitors, when they should be used, how, and in whom, and a whole new enhanced risk assessment for primary prevention approach, which I think is going to make us much smarter about how we actually select patients for therapy with statin medications, as well as other lipid-lowering medications. So lots to look forward to. The main presentation is at 10:45 this morning, and then there's a deep dive session at 5:30 this evening.
The other thing I think is there's an online, another tool that you can download that will have the actual main findings from the guideline itself if you need to refer to that both now and when you return to your clinical practice.
That's correct, and they're being published online at the same time as the morning session.
How about some science in this same
Yeah, so as is usual, we have some very late-breaking science, some very large and exciting clinical trials. I think 3 that I'll highlight, Eric, include first the VITAL trial. This is a very large NIH-funded trial, a 2x2 design, healthy middle-aged and older men and women randomized to either vitamin D therapy or low-dose fish oil therapy. So we'll be excited, I think, to see the results of that one. Lots of questions still about vitamin D therapy and fish oil. The next one I'll highlight is Reduce It in the 2 o'clock late-breaking session. Reduce It is using high dose of a single omega-3 EPA in patients at high risk already on statin therapy. So we'll see perhaps a little bit more clarity about the fish oil story. And finally, a trial of ezetimibe alone in older patients with high risk for cardiovascular disease. One of the first trials really to focus on older patients and use ezetimibe in the absence of statin therapy. So I think it'll be very interesting to see what they found there.
Well, that's great. Prevention is sort of the name of the game of at least day 1. There will be a second whole set of clinical trials that devoted around more novel treatments as we're starting to develop and broaden out our portfolio of things that can potentially prevent cardiovascular disease. So in a second session at 3:45, there'll be a late-breaking clinical trials, first of which is DECLARE. This will be a very large study looking at an SGLT2 which is a diabetes drug that actually lowers cholesterol, but potentially we'll see has impacts as well on cardiovascular as well as heart failure endpoints. That'll be a much awaited second in this class of, or even third in this class of drugs, but really will be definitive about whether it can be extended beyond just those with disease to a primary prevention population. The SIRT trial would be another one that I would like to highlight. This is the second in a series of studies that is looking at inflammation and whether drugs that can alter inflammation can improve outcomes in patients with cardiovascular disease. We don't really know whether or not that will work or not. This will be a drug called methotrexate, a classic drug used in many inflammatory disease states, has not been tested ever directly in the treatment of cardiovascular disease, a large NIH-sponsored trial that will look at these results. And then a third from that session, there will be a series of these, but a third from that session is a very unique one, looking at the role of yoga and whether yoga can be helpful in patients who had acute myocardial infarction in part of their cardiac rehab program. Again, an exciting study and showing that in part, research is not only done it's done in a global state now, and we have to think about ways both from east and west meeting together to improve outcomes.
Exactly. So I think a really exciting day for all of you. We hope you'll enjoy the sessions here in Chicago and look forward to seeing you again on Sunday as well.
Thanks, Don. Look forward to seeing you all.